This week, we're going to get into coding scripts. So this is a little more like programming. You're going to read through chapter 14 in your book and then go through the lecture demo. The lecture demo basically goes through different commands that will help you control the flow of execution in your script. And you'll see that these are commands that you've used in programming. So if else, here, if you have a block, you use begin and end, but the while loop, break and continue, try catch, those should be terms that are somewhat familiar to you. And as we go through here, you'll learn how to create variables in T Sql. We create a scalar variable that's designed to hold a single value. So that's more like a traditional variable, but then we also work with table variables, which will basically store the entire result set. And in T Sql, when we declare a variable, we put an @ sign in front of it. And then you'll notice we give the variable name followed by the data type. Okay, so what data we're going to be storing in there. To print a variable, this is a little quirky because the default is to print strings. So if you have a number, you actually have to convert it to a string in order to print it. And that is what this is doing. So anytime you want to use the print statement to print a number, you have to use convert to convert it over into character. Now that's the only quirky thing involved in printing. After we talk about creating scalar and table variables, we get into how to create temporary tables. There is a local table and a global table. The local table only you have access to. The global table is a table that anybody in your intranet would have access to. So if you have a company intranet and you create a global table, anybody on that intranet could access that. And there's two different ways that you create these. So a single hash is local, 2 hashes is global. Then we do a little summary of all of the different types of table objects, because at this point we have covered all of them. And then we get into the more programming-like statements that you use in T Sql scripting. So we talk about if else, while statements, while loops, using exception handling with try and catch. And then we take a look at some of the system functions that are actually built in to SQL Server. And some of them are kind of useful because if you are inserting rows and the primary key is being automatically calculated, you can actually access that using @ identity. So there are some of these that are pretty useful. I tried to include the more useful ones in here. And then we talk a little bit about session settings and how to adjust those. And we get into dynamic SQL, where you're actually executing procedures, which we will get into creating next week. Next week, we get into doing procedures and triggers and I believe functions. So we'll be actually doing some executing next week. Once you go through all of that, then you're going to do the textbook assignment, which is set up like all the other ones where you've got the videos that kind of go with each of your tasks. And the tasks are designed to cover information that was covered in this particular chapter. And then the lab assignment gives you practice doing this on your own. There are plenty of examples in the lecture demo and in the textbook assignment for you to look at. So you can create scalar variables, table variables that are similar. Then you'll be doing some temporary tables, if statements. And as you go through here, you'll notice that I have examples, but you will need to create your own. After you complete the textbook and lab assignments, then you guys are going to work on the unit test. And this is set up the same as the other ones, where you can take it 3 times and it will record your highest score. The question types are similar to what you will see on the certification exam, which is your final. So these tests are to help you prepare for that certification. At the bottom, I've got some resources on pretty much all of the topics that are covered in this chapter. So if there's anything that you are a little confused about, feel free to watch the videos because I think they will help you. If you have any questions or if you run into problems this week, let me know and have an awesome week.